Hi, my name is Ryan Rice. I'm the Executive Director and Curator, Indigenous Art here at Onsite Gallery. I've been here for about 4 years, working both as a curator and recently as the Executive Director. I have a 30-year career within the arts milieu, so community, museums, galleries, and public spaces. I was the Indigenous Visual Culture Program Chair at OCAD prior to this, but I moved back within the gallery profession because that's what I do. So I was been with OCAD for almost 12 years now. Yeah, I think Rosalie frames belonging in many ways that society is still adjusting to finding place, finding acceptance, even though there has been a significant shift in social justice, in accepting marginal communities, diversity and inclusion. I think a lot of people still go through that struggle to find a place where they firmly belong or feel welcome. In Rosalie's case, we're looking at 40 years, a 40-year career, 40-year practice, 40-year history, where she was coming to terms with her own identity, both culturally as a Métis person and within the LGBTQ community as a lesbian. So she was looking for others like her. She was looking to find a place where she belonged and felt comfortable and accepted. And what I notice today is people are still going through those struggles. I hear artists talk about identity, finding acceptance, whether it's cultural, whether it's gender, whether it's intellectual. Everyone is looking for that place to belong and looking for a place where they have a foundation to speak from and to be accepted. So I think Rosalie's exhibition Belonging frames her journey through finding that acceptance, which ends up to being with herself, being comfortable with herself and accepting who she is. I worked with Rosalie almost 25 years ago on her exhibition Longing and Not Belonging, which is part of the exhibition here. And through that series, I was introduced to her work and understanding where she was coming from as a photographer, emerging artist. This is 1999, 2000, where her practice was still, she was just coming out of grad school and developing her own sense of style, her own sensibility of work, and recognizing how image making can address her desires to belong, her desires of what's forcing her not to belong, and to collapse those two together. So within that body of work, I was able to see a range of access that a visitor can come to terms with for her work, because there were floral elements that show the versatility of nature. There were family albums that give us a familiarity of family life and all our relations, and TV and movie icons. So she was looking for role models who she could look up to as heroes. The heroes that she found were not Métis heroes, they weren't lesbian heroes, but they were strong women heroes within movies and TVs. Ripley from Aliens, Jamie Summers from The Bionic Woman, Emma Peel from The Avengers, all icons within, popular culture that Rosalie gravitated to and found their strength. So she found they gave her access to knowing that she could be a strong warrior woman. Xena Warrior Princess became a significant icon for Rosalie to embody, both through herself, through her portraiture, and through the spirit of Xena Warrior Princess, who was, the equivalent of like any of the male heroes of the time. Yeah, so the thematic thread was her lens-based work. So looking at her photography as the key foundation for her practice, Rosalie has merged video work, performance work, painting throughout her practice, but her lens-based work, her photographic series, are pretty much what makes her known, what has given her attention in the past, what people have become familiar with, what kind of work to expect from Rosalie. So I was interested in pulling together all these series in the exhibition to show how they speak to one another, have a conversation, and how they shift over time over 40 years. So within her practice, we go from analog black and white, where she's in the darkroom creating the photographs, all the way to today where she's using Photoshop and digital and, thinking about what's next. How does AI play into it? What technology shifts? So bringing aspects of how photographic history has shifted over 40 years along with her practice. So you see an evolution of both the artist and the medium. Yeah, I think it makes you reflect on your own positionality. Who were my heroes? What elements of my family history did I want to know or did not know of? Who was the creative force in a family lineage? So for Rosalie, it was her grandmother who was taking pictures. So she picked up that tradition of taking pictures. That became her archive that she was building from. Thinking about finding spaces of acceptance and desire. Who were you attracted to? What draws you into a subject? All that sort of made me recognize not only myself, but also society within Rosalie's work. That's why I think it's very accessible to a public, because it's familiar. That idea of familiarity allows us to confront the artwork and think of ourselves within it. So facing the camera, I think I was part of the initial session of portraitures that she was doing, which took place in Banff, Alberta, at the Banff Centre for the Arts. And she was in residency there, and I can't remember what I was doing there. But she starts setting up her studio to take portraits, and she invited many of the artists who were there to get their portrait done. So I willingly stepped up and participated. And she was trying to, in the sense of belonging, she was looking at building her community. Who are her peers? Who are her heroes in the art world? Who are the ones that are emerging or established and contributing to the discourse of Canadian art history, Indigenous art history, photography? So Banff being the center, the incubator of creativity, it brings a mass of artists there at the same time. So she was able to photograph Alex Janvier, Richard Bell, Frank Shabagaget, a number of people that I was included. And I was on the cusp of artist curator. So she was inclusive in who she includes in this series. Over the years, that series began to grow and eventually becomes an archive of 500 portraits that she has taken since. And it's a very community experience, the portrait session. So when I was a chief curator at the Museum of Contemporary Native Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico, I invited Rosalie to do a residency there. And in that residency, we opened up the portrait session to any artist who wanted to come and participate. And I think she shot about 150 portraits over 2 days. So the bulk of facing the camera took place within 2 days in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It was during an event called Indian Market, so there were a lot of artists there. So people came in and out from all over the place, Canada, US, and got their portraits taken. I happened to get another portrait taken at that time as well. And then here at OCAD, I invited Rosalie to do an artist in residence, and we thought, let's do a Toronto series. So she's not very particular about who attends. She's not strict on, you have to be from the space. So it was whoever was in Toronto at the time and want to come participate and get their portraiture done, they were invited. So I think at that time we did about 38 portraits here at OCAD. So the Facing the Camera di Dargaranto series that's on the mural shows almost all of those portraits that were taken over the 2 days during her residency here as well. And then most recently at the Block Museum in Chicago at Northwestern University, they invited her to also do a Facing the Camera portrait session. So she did a Chicago series. I was there doing the curatorial research, so I ended up getting another portrait of myself. So I think total I have 3 portraits in the Facing the Camera series. I mean, given that I came early to her work through the Longing and Not Belonging, I was able to follow Rosalie's career path over the years, see the works that she was doing, see the transitions that were taking place in her work, seeing the growth and I would say the bravery that she presented as being an out lesbian that wasn't as acceptance 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, as society changes and shifts. So I was very aware of what she was doing. I was aware of the series. I was aware of the different other series that she was doing. So being able to go on the journey with her and revisiting 40 years of work allowed me to see where she began, because I probably come in mid-career with her Longing and Not Belonging series. So I got to see the early black and white works that she's done that are included in the exhibition. I've got to see her video work, her performance work, and most recently her paintings. So her paintings are representative of some of the series that she's done through lens-based work. So you see how she is rethinking the work she's done, and I guess reconciliating her own space of belonging through the paintings now, which aren't in the exhibition because I wanted just to focus on the photographic works. Well, I think, just drawing to the imagery is really important. Being drawn to all aspects of photography, because we're seeing black and white, we're seeing the experience of Polaroid, the instantaneousness of the Polaroid film. We're seeing photoshopped elements and digital components coming into the work. We're seeing the portraiture of community. And we're seeing the archive of family. So the photographic album becomes a clear sense of knowledge that someone, if you have the luxury of someone who took pictures in your family and bringing that forward, you're able to piece together histories that may have been unknown before and have come to the surface. So I think what that allows a visitor to do is reflect upon themselves and their own family histories, reflect again on who are heroes, who are role models, who are people you look up to, who you have an affinity with. I also like that it is a precursor to the selfie, that selfies can be art, self-representation, self-portraiture has a long history in photography and shouldn't be dismissed. So bringing that forward through work that was pre-digital cameras, it was Polaroid cameras, arm's length and an instant camera, and thinking about the impact that has had for people, especially when finding themselves, looking for identity, and acceptance and belonging. So there's a lot held within the body of work that Rosalie, she's also searching for an identity that was historically erased from consciousness. So First Nations peoples were more recognized within the Canadian system because there's legislation around who is an Indian, who is status. We're also aware of Inuit within the northern regions, but Métis was a sort of blurred identity and history that only until now we're learning more and more about. So Rosalie's bringing that up front. She's thinking about who am I as Métis? What does Métis mean? So that journey allowed her to understand who she was through research, through family, through understanding the legalities around that, recognizing the communities who name themselves, and the complications of the term Métis that has come upon us today, which is very fraught in certain areas of Canada. So she positions herself as Red River Métis, where it's the origins of the Métis Nation within the prairies, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. So she's framing these histories for us to recognize how it was, it took time to understand her identity. And it took time for Canada to understand that identity as well. And we're still going through learning about what that actually means. So that holds a strong foundation within her work, in addition to also sexual preference in terms of the gay community, the queer community, the indigiqueer community that is being named now. So finding her positions within all of these sites are open to people who come to the exhibition and see her work for the first time. I think in Living Evidence, we see how she positions a partner at the front, and towards the end of the series, she's in the front and the partner's in the back. So we see struggles of relationship and the realities of a relationship through that process. And I think that's a very important work that hasn't been seen as much as probably it should be. So embarking on this project, it started when I approached Rosalie with an invitation that I wanted to nominate her for an honorary doctorate at OCAD. And through that work of preparing the application, which is not too much of a burden, it dawned on me that this could be the next exhibition that I'm going to work on. So pulling together a retrospective needs to go beyond just one gallery. So I started with the intention that it was going to be a traveling show, speaking with Rosalie, we start looking at mapping galleries in Canada and thinking about where we want it to go. And so it's always, let's get it to the West Coast, let's get it to the East Coast, let's get it in the middle of Canada. So starting from that point, starting to send out packages to different galleries, getting inquiries, getting interest. And through that, we have 4 confirmed venues through 2028. It'll be going to 2 locations in Ontario, so the Art Gallery of Algoma and Kitchener-Waterloo Art Gallery. And then it'll go to the Osisiwan Contemporary Art Center, which is in Edmonton, and then to the Leonard and Bina Allen Gallery at Concordia in Montreal. So 4 venues after OCAD, after Onsite, and we're also producing a publication that goes along with this.